My good people, my good people. Hello, world. I'd like to welcome you guys back to the show that's hot with your boy, Rob Scott. This is Rob's 2 cents, baby. What's going on, everybody? Hope y'all doing good. Hope you're feeling great. And I hope you're ready to talk some sports because the stage is set, ladies and gentlemen. The teams for the finals have now ascended their way to the top and is ready to dance that last dance of the 2021-2022 season in the NBA, where we're going to have the Western Conference powerhouse, the Golden State Warriors, old reliable, Mr. Experienced, versus the Young Guns, versus the best defensive team in the league, the Boston Celtics. Oh, it's going to be a good one, ladies and gentlemen. I am excited about this matchup when we get to see top-notch offense versus top-notch defense in the clash to see who's going to be champion. We also saw a great knockout this weekend. Don't know if you guys know a guy by the name of Tank who ran like a tank all over Rolly Romero. We got a lot to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope you guys are ready to tune in into the hottest sports conversation in the nation because Rob's 2 cents starts right now. And we have to go. Before we can talk about where we going, we got to talk about how we got there. We have to talk about the road travel. And ladies and gentlemen, we have to talk about this amazing run that the Boston Celtics have been on in these playoffs this season. Let me tell you guys something. If you want to talk about a hard road leading to the championship, you got to talk about the Boston Celtics because they started off in the first playoff series of these playoffs. They had to go against who many favored it as this team was favored to win the championship. We have to start off talking about how the Boston Celtics completely decimated the Brooklyn Nets because Brooklyn didn't win a game in that series, ladies and gentlemen. We all know the story. Boston wins that series 4-0. I mean, but the talk of that series was how the Boston Celtics defense was so tenacious. The talk of that series was how the Boston Celtics defense was able to keep a monster like Kevin Durant at bay. Because if we talk about the real storyline, we're going to talk about how the Boston Celtics was able to calm the 7-foot giant known as Kevin Durant. Because Kevin Durant, as we know, he gets buckets. I mean, let's look at his 2020-2021 season. The man averaged 34.3 points in the playoffs. We know that he almost took the Milwaukee Bucks. He almost eliminated them. I know Skip Bayless and other analysts like to talk about the fact that his toe was on the line shooting that three-point shot. We thought it was over with. We thought that Kevin Durant single-handedly went through the Milwaukee Bucks. He had a hobbled James Harden and had an injured Kyrie who was nowhere on the court. Yet KD was able to take a bunch of role players to Game 7 against the Milwaukee Bucks. So people said, okay, you have a healthy James Harden, you have a healthy Kyrie. The Nets are favored to win the championship this year. Now, James Harden, we know the story, forced his way out, went to Philly. But you still had Kyrie, who was now able to play not just home games, but he was able to play all games due to the vaccine mandate being lifted in the state of New York. You got Kyrie back now. We know you're missing Joe Harris. We know you were missing Patty Mills. But you still have Seth Curry, got Andre Drummond. We know you didn't have Ben Simmons, but with Kevin Durant, we thought that was enough to at least make this series competitive. But that Boston Celtics defense held strong. Let me tell you guys something. They held Kevin Durant to 26.3 points. Now, I know a lot of you guys might look and say 26.3 points, that's not bad. But when you're only shooting 38.6% from the field as a 7-footer, when you're shooting 33.3% from the three-point line, that's a problem, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what that Celtics defense was able to do against Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets. Held Kyrie at bay. Now I know, guys. You if you see me on other sports network like ASAP Sports, ASAP in the morning, I know I'm not making a mockery of anybody celebrating, Ramadan or whatever religious holiday that you want to celebrate. But my thing with Kyrie is you already caused a distraction with the vaccine mandate, and now you want to, essentially fast during the NBA playoffs. And I understand that's your religion, even though I would have to question how long he's been following that faith. But that's neither here nor there. But my problem with the situation is, if you're gonna not be there all the way, then just don't show up, Kyrie. Nobody's telling you not to celebrate Ramadan, but if you can't be 100% for these NBA playoffs, then stay home. Because what you did was cause more problems than you did good. Because all the Boston Celtics were able to do, all they needed to do was to just zone in on Kevin Durant. And that's exactly what they did. Kevin Durant couldn't do anything with that Celtics defense because everywhere he went, he had at least 4 pair of eyes following him. And that's what you do if you're the Boston Celtics. Any one of you guys can beat me except those two. And the Boston Celtics, as I mentioned, able to sweep the Brooklyn Nets. Now, some people thought that was an aberration. Some people thought this was a mirage. Some people said this was a fluke. And they said they will get handled in the second series of these playoffs. As now the Boston Celtics is set up to face the defending champions. They're set up to face the Milwaukee Bucks. However, as a caveat, Chris Middleton will not be there during this series due to a torn MCL. I believe it was a torn MCL. So now, Milwaukee is without his closer, but you still have Giannis. You still have former Finals MVP, former League MVP, former Defensive Player of the Year, former All-Star MVP. You still have, as many will regard, including myself, the best player in the NBA today. You still had the Greek Freak. You still had Giannis Antetokounmpo. And the Celtics beat them in 7. That tenacious defense that they played did not let up in this second series. Even though Milwaukee was able to have some great games. I mean, we look at game 1, we saw a triple-double from Giannis, who had 24, 13 rebounds, 12 assists. And who can forget that great game that he played, even though it resulted in a loss. But he had 44 and 20 in game 6. 44 points, 20 rebounds, 6 assists. We know that Giannis he has the capability to go nuclear in these games. Remember, in the closeout game versus the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals, Giannis scored 52 points or 50 points, had 14 rebounds, had 6 blocks. We know that Giannis is spectacular. But they were able to match their intensity. Jason Tatum had himself a game. Jason Tatum for this series averaged 27.6 points. He shot 42.9% from the field, shot 37% from the three-point line, almost 40%. Jason Tatum showed up. And he has established himself as a superstar in these NBA playoffs. Jason Tatum is a two-way player. Played excellent defense on Kevin Durant. Played excellent defense in this series, even though in my eyes, the X factor of this series was Grant Williams and the job that he was able to do on Giannis, because Giannis was not able to bully Grant Williams. And remember, in this series, they didn't have Robert Williams throughout this series. And not to mention Al Horford drinking the fountain of youth. How can we forget that game 4 in which Al Horford turned back the hands of time? He said, Jason Tatum, you going for 30, even though Giannis going for 34 and 18, I'll match your 30 with my 30. You're going to shoot 11 to 24 from the field. I'm going to get my 30 off 14 shots and shoot 11 for 14. Jason Tatum, I'm going to give you 8 rebounds. I'm going to give you a block. Al Horford. And remember, the play, the turning point of that game was when Giannis was snarling at Al Horford after dunking the ball. And Al Horford looked at him and said, that's what we doing? And Al Horford proceeded to turn back the hands of time and say, turnabout is fair play. He who laughs best. And Al Horford got the last laugh that night. As I mentioned, Giannis had a hell of a game. 34 points, 18 rebounds. But when you got your superstar and a savvy veteran and Al Horford both giving you 30, that's going to be hard to beat. The Milwaukee Bucks was definitely missing Chris Middleton. Drew Holiday is a great point guard. He gets the job done. He's one of the great two-rate players in the league, and a lot of people already know how I feel about Drew Holiday. Probably one of the most underrated players in the league. But he's not much of a scorer. It's a difference between being able to score and being a scorer. Chris Middleton was severely missed in this series. However, the game goes on. You suit up with who you got available. The Milwaukee Bucks had enough, I feel, to win this series. It did go to Game 7. And I think their fatal flaw was not winning Game 6. Because you just did not want to see Boston in the Game 7 back at home, I believe, in Boston. And even though Giannis tried his best, he had 25 points, 20 rebounds, and 9 assists with the near triple-double. But see, that's when you have to stop looking at just the stat line and actually read the stats. The Boston Celtics were not going to lose that Game 7, which they won 109-81, dominated this game because Giannis, granted he had 25 points, took him 26 shots to get that. He was 10 to 26. He shot 38.5% from the field. We know he's not much of a three-point shooter if he went 1 for 4. As I mentioned, 20 rebounds, 9 assists with 5 turnovers. Drew Holiday, again, 21 points, but it took him 21 shots to get there. Where were the role players that stepped up for the Milwaukee Bucks as they did against the Chicago Bulls? Where was the Robin? Where was the Bobby Portises of the world? Where was the Grayson Allens of the world? You sure looked good against the Bulls, didn't you? Jason Tatum said enough is enough. 7 of 14. The man was 5 of 9 from the three-point line for 23 points. Grant Williams said, I want to play. I can shoot. I can score a little bit, as he gave you 27 points. Didn't shoot particularly well from the field, as he just got up shots. 10 to 22 from the field, 7 to 18 from the three-point line. Didn't have the best shooting night, but he got your points. He got your buckets. And Jaylen Brown stepping up huge, 8 to 16 from the field, 19 points, 8 rebounds. I mean, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum might be that 1-2 punch that you don't want to see in today's NBA. We're talking about two athletic guards. Each of them can switch positions to the forward position. And quiet as kept, Jaylen Brown might be more athletic than Jason Tatum, at least in my eyes. But Jason Tatum just has that clutch factor. And I love the way that Jaylen Brown is fearless. Marcus Smart, tough, defensive player of the year. This Boston team is tough. And then we know what happened with the Miami Heat. Boston now playing the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. Miami was the best team in the Eastern Conference. Number 1 seed. Now, granted, they came into this series a little hobbled, but who's not hobbled? Marcus Smart was thought he was going to be out. I believe he was out for at least the first game. Him and Al Horford. We know that Marcus Smart took a nasty spill against the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 7. Injured his foot. Tyler Hero was hurt. Kyle Lowry was hurt. Jimmy Butler was hurt. I don't believe Jimmy or Kyle played in that first game. So you're looking at this series, and you realize, I'm sorry, Jimmy played, but I'm sorry. Let me take that back, because Jimmy scored, forgot it, that 41 point, because we thought that Miami was going to come out swinging. He got that 41 point game 1 and kind of started to fall off a little bit in game 2 and game 3. But, the Miami Heat, we know that they have tenacious defense. We know that the Miami Heat play defense by committee. The fact now that they get Oladipo back, now you're adding another scorer to that roster. And trust me, Oladipo had a game in which that scoring was needed, as he was the one trying to keep Miami in the game. He had a great game against the Philadelphia 76ers in the second round, where they needed all of Victor Oladipo's points. But Miami was just too butchered and battered, as they will also beat the Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics, in a 7-game series. A lot of people thought it was over with for Miami, but they were able to win that Game 6, which was surprising considering the fact that Game 6 was in Boston. And we thought Boston was going to be able to close them out. But before I give any more credit to the Boston Celtics, I have to give credit to Jimmy Butler for probably one of the most legendary Game 6s you will probably see. Because let me tell you guys something. Jimmy that night showed that he did not want to go home. And he showed up in a game in which nobody else on his team followed suit. The next best scorer was Kyle Lowry with 18 points, but he was 5 of 14. Let me tell you what Jimmy did in that Game 6. 47 points, 16 of 29 from the field. That's 55%. 4-8 from the three-point line. 11 of 11 from the free throw line. 9 rebounds, including 3 offensive. 8 assists, 4 steals, 1 block, only 1 turnover. Jimmy Butler came out and played the game of his life. And Miami needed every bit of it, because everybody thought it was over with. I thought it was over with. All the analysts thought it was over with. Hell, even Draymond Green on Inside the NBA said, I know who we're going to play. We're going to play the Boston Celtics. Everybody thought this series was already over, but Jimmy said not tonight. And they would take it to Game 7 in Miami. Miami riding high. Coming in ready to take this game down to the wire. But Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart stepped up for the Celtics. Now, even though Jimmy tried to show that he still had a little bit of magic, went for 35, 13 to 24 from the field, didn't do well from the three-point line at all, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Had 1 steal, still only 1 turnover, 9 rebounds, and 1 assist. Bam finally showed up, gave you 12 of 21, and he had 25 points. Kyle Lowry still not being able to find the stroke. 4-12. We know Tyler Hero was injured. He only played 6 minutes, and he gave you a donut. I mean, Jimmy had to endure some horrible shooting from Max Struss and Gabe Vincent. He also had to endure horrible shooting from Kyle Lowry. He had to endure with an injured Tyler Hero, and Jimmy tried his best to single-handedly take Miami to the finals. But the big three for the Boston Celtics stepped up. As I mentioned, 26 for Jason Tatum, and 24 apiece for Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart. And by the way, Marcus Smart, even though he had 24 points, he was 8 of 22 from the field and 3 of 10 from the three-point line. He single-handedly tried to gift wrap the game for Miami. I mean, missing shot after shot, taking horrible shots, not being able to connect. I was like, oh, Marcus Smart is secretly playing for Miami. He must have had somebody bet on FanDuel and said, I'll tank this game for you. Because I was looking at Marcus Smart, and this is supposed to be an intelligent player, the point guard, the quarterback for this Boston Celtics team, and he almost gave the game away to Miami. And it came down to the wire, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, they only won by 4. I believe the final score was 196. They only won by 4 points. And at one point, could have took the lead for the game. With about 11 seconds left on the clock, Jimmy's on the foul and is in transition. He comes down, has Al Horford sticking him. Al Horford's backpedaling. Jimmy rises up and shoots the three and misses it wide to the left. It was short and it was left. A lot of people are mad at Jimmy Butler for taking that shot because, of course, Boston gets the ball, get the rebound, goes down, knock down the free throws, makes it a 4-point game, even though they could have been up by 1. Game over. But I'm not mad at Jimmy Butler because he's the only reason we're in this game. To be honest, Jimmy Butler's the only reason we're in this series. We're going to live by Jimmy. We're going to die by Jimmy. And a lot of people are trying to question, well, he's not much of a three-point shooter. The man just went for a vacant game 6 in Boston. At that. So let's not sit up here and act like Jimmy ain't been scoring buckets. Jimmy G buckets, the G stands for get. Let's not act like Jimmy was not having a game of his life and thought that he was going to recreate some of that thunder. I'm not mad at the three-point shot he took. I wouldn't want to see the Boston Celtics in overtime either in that situation. The Boston Celtics were just healthier than the Miami Heat, and I think he knew they were going to lock in defensively. They were going to do everything in their power to zero in on Jimmy Butler. Coach Ime Udoka, he's very smart, and he's proven his worth as the Boston Celtics head coach. He was not going to let Jimmy Butler beat him in overtime. You can take that to the bank. And the Boston Celtics were able to pull it out. Jason Tatum ends up winning the Larry Bird Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is a thing now. They now have the finals, Western Conference Finals MVP, Eastern Conference Finals MVP, respectively named after Larry Bird in the East, Western Conference named after Magic Johnson. We know Magic Johnson and Larry Bird helped save the NBA in a time when nobody watched the NBA. They made it interesting with that Celtics versus Lakers rivalry, and respectfully so, they deserve it. And it's only right that the Boston Celtics won the Eastern Conference Finals trophy and won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. A lot of people will argue and say that Jaylen Brown could have won that MVP. I guess it's up for the debate, but Jason Tatum is the leader of this team. And if we look at this series as a whole, to me, the Celtics moved as Jason moved. I think that they were right on the money to give him the MVP award. Yes, Tatum probably had didn't have as good of a game as Jaylen Brown did in the closeout game. But if we look at the overall series, I'm riding with Jason Tatum. In fact, if we look at the playoff series this playoffs, Jason Tatum has been on the roll, averaging 27 points, shooting 44.6% from the field, 37.5% from the three-point line. He's been getting the job done. 6 assists, 7 rebounds. It's nothing that you can tell me about this guy. He even wore a Kobe armband in Game 7 against the Miami Heat, saying he wanted to channel his inner Kobe. And he definitely did so. Did not let the Black Mamba down. Got the job done. The Boston Celtics are going to the NBA Finals. But there's another team on the side of that spectrum. Because now we have to go out west and look at the road travel for their opponent, who is my team. My favorite player plays for that team, Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. And let me tell you guys something. The Warriors been looking good these playoffs. The Warriors been looking excellent these playoffs. Now, a lot of people will say that their role was a lot easier than the Boston Celtics. I don't see how you can say that. They swept the Brooklyn Nets, but Kyrie was fasting, and he had missed half the year anyway, so I don't think team chemistry was up. And, I'm not going to make any excuses for Brooklyn, but I'm just stating facts. Milwaukee doesn't have their closer in Chris Middleton. Miami already comes into the series injured. I mean, hell, we haven't even seen the Morris twin since the series started. He was still out nursing that bad neck that he got from the whiplash he received from Joker. So I'm not gonna sit up here and say that Boston's had the easiest road. The hardest road, like their road was so hard. I'm not going to sit up here and state that. But what I will say is that, yeah, you can technically say they've had a harder road than the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors in the first round got to play the Denver Nuggets. We know Denver's story. Joker is the reigning MVP of the league, 2-time back-to-back MVP, but he was by himself. And the Warriors were able to end that series in 5 games. Because Nikola Jokic, as great as he is, he could not take on a team full of veterans. Look at these numbers. He scores 25 points and 10 rebounds, 6 assists in Game 1, 26 and 11 in Game 2, 37 and 18 in Game 3, 37 and 8 in Game 4. And in the closeout game, he gave you 30 points, 19 rebounds, and 8 assists. The Joker did everything in his power to contend with the Golden State Warriors. But in the end, it wasn't enough because you were getting hit in droves. Game 1 and Game 2, Jordan Poole took over the game. Game 3, Steph Curry said, "Don't forget about me." Game 4, Steph Curry got in the form. In Game 5, with 30 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, we closed them out. On to the next story. We know Denver was missing Jamal Murray. We know Denver is missing Michael Porter Jr. But as I've told people, in my opinion, who's to say that Denver would have even stood a chance even with those players? I still got the Warriors winning in 6, even if Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. is there. Because it's just time. This is a veteran ball club with a veteran core that's itching and ready to get back to the NBA Finals just to tell people I told you so. Because a lot of people counted this team out, but we'll get to that in a second. We get to the second game in second round. And the Golden State Warriors are now going against the Memphis Grizzlies. And let me tell you guys something. Memphis might have been their toughest test because I believe this series goes to 7 if Ja Morant doesn't get hurt after Game 3. I apologize. If Ja Morant doesn't go down in Game 3, we're probably talking, having a different conversation. Ja Morant was just simply amazing in this series. The man had a near triple-double in Game 1 with 35 points, 10 assists, 9 rebounds. Comes out and has the best game of his career. Gives you a career high in the postseason with 47 points and 8 rebounds and 8 assists. Ja doing it from everywhere. Comes back, gives you 34 points and 7 assists, even though they got blown out in Game 3. and he goes down. And now, as the Memphis Grizzlies get this experience, they're gonna be without their star player for the rest of the series with a bum knee. Now we know the story. Jordan Poole was reaching for the ball, and as he was reaching for the ball, he grabbed Ja's knee. I guess pulled it awkwardly, and now Ja was out with the sprained knee. I think that either bone bruise or just a real bad sprain had inflammation in that knee, and he wasn't able to come back for the rest of the series. You know, it almost reminds you of when Golden State was going against the Houston Rockets and they lost Chris Paul in game 5 or game 6. The Rockets were almost looking like they could have beat the Warriors. And then you lose Chris Paul and they go downhill from there. That's what it reminded you of. And now you lose Ja Morant, who, in my opinion, reminds me so much of Derrick Rose because of his explosiveness, but also partly because of his knee issues as well. Ja Morant has not been healthy this season because, remember, we praised Memphis for what they were able to do without him. I mean, they blew out the Warriors in game 5. I mean, who can forget that? I mean, I believe at one point they were even up as many as 55 points. Nothing that the Warriors can do with the Memphis Grizzlies, and this is without Ja Morant. This is without your star. Because as we recall during the regular season, what got Memphis on the radar is the fact that Ja Morant missed 25 games, and that team was able to go 20-5 in the games that he missed, realistically 20-2 before they went on a 3-game losing streak. The Memphis team is for real, and that was as I've said before, that was a trip to the woodshed that they needed for future fights. They gained a little experience. They gained a little combat experience, and I believe they're going to be ready for a fight come next season. But the Warriors able to get the job done, winning this series in 6. Did not want to go back to Memphis. I'm glad Golden State was able to take care of business in Game 6. I just didn't trust it because Dylan Brooks was having a hell of a game. We know what Jaren Jackson Jr. can do. We know what Tyus Jones can do. Zion Williams, Steven Nash. They got some Desmond Bain. They got studs on that team. And the Golden State Warriors were smart to not want to see this team in Game 7, take care of business, put them to sleep, send them to Cancun, and on to the next series. Because then in that next series, we would see the Golden State Warriors versus the Dallas Mavericks. And, man, let me tell you guys something. The Dallas Mavericks deserve all the praise and accolades that they're going to get. I was one of the only teams people that predicted that the Dallas Mavericks would beat the Phoenix Suns, who was not only the best team in the Western Conference, they were the best team in the league. I was the one that predicted that Dallas would go to work on them due to the subpar defense from DeAndre Ayton. I just knew that, I saw what happened to him last year versus Giannis, and I knew that Luka was too skilled for DeAndre to try to guard him. Nothing that they can do with Luka. And Luka had a great series against the Golden State Warriors. However, Luka was by himself. I mean, Luka averaged 32 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists throughout this series. But it was just too much of the Golden State Warriors, as the Warriors were able to beat the Dallas Mavericks in 5. I mean, Steph Curry really dominated this series, in my opinion, except for the last game in which we saw Game 6 Clay show up in Game 5, and Game 6 Clay. We no longer refer to Klay Thompson as Game 6 Clay. We call Klay Thompson closeout Clay, because when it comes to a series, Klay Thompson knows how to get the job done. Didn't shoot well all series, but in that Game 5 against Dallas Mavericks with all the chips on the marble, back at home in Golden State in an elimination game, closeout Klay showed up as he went 8 of 14 from the three-point line. Klay, showing why he's one of the best shooters to ever lace up a pair of shoes and dribble the peel on the hardwood. Let me tell you guys something. Klay Thompson, it felt good to see him get back into form, especially in one of the most pivotal games. When it counts, Klay showed up. Steph Curry would take home the MVP. Again, I want to give a shout out to Luka and the Dallas Mavericks. Luka doing everything he could. I mean, Luka scored 20 game 1, 42 and 8 assists in game 2, 40 points and 11 rebounds in game 3. 30 points, 14 rebounds in game 4. I mean, even game 5, 28, 9 to 6, even though he didn't shoot that well at all from the field, as he was 10 of 28 to get you those 28 points. But Luka tried his best to get this team over the hump. And I will give a shout out to Dallas. Dallas's future changed once they got rid of Porzingis, able to give Luka more spacing. We'll talk about in future episodes what I think Dallas needs to do in order to make that core successful. But you got a superstar in Luka, a top 3 player, honestly, right now in the NBA, definitely top 5. You can argue that he's a top 3 though, because Luka, he can do some things that most NBA players can't do. The way that he can control the post area. But again, shout out to Dallas for a hard-fought series, but the Warriors able to pull it through. Steph Curry adding another piece of hardware to his already great trophy case. As we look, he has now been named the first ever Magic Johnson Western Conference Finals MVP, and he's going to be looking to get Finals MVP because that is the only trophy that is missing from his trophy case. He needs the Finals MVP. We're going to talk about that in a second, but I just want to bask in the glory of the Golden State Warriors. When most people doubted them and said that the dynasty was over, the Golden State Warriors will never again reach an NBA Finals. They will not win without Kevin Durant. And no, they have not won yet. But the fact that they've reached the NBA Finals, the fact that this core of Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green has shown that they are winners. You got to give kudos. Give credit where credit is due. Give kudos to this team. Give kudos to the coaching staff and of the player development that they have on this team. Look at players like Kevon Looney. Look at Looney with one game giving you 22 rebounds, one game giving you 14 rebounds, showing up when you need him the most. Andrew Wiggins and the defense that he played on Luka Doncic, the defense that he's played, on the Memphis Grizzlies and how he's helped on defense against the Denver Nuggets, and he's going to be really needed against the Boston Celtics as he's going to be going up against Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due. The development of Jordan Poole, the development of Moody, who's their rookie on his team, and Kuminga, both of these rookies showing that they have no problem in stepping up even when the lights are the brightest. You have to give a shout out to Coach Steve Kerr. Coach Mike Brown just became the new head coach of the Sacramento Kings. You have to give credit where credit is due. And that brings me to now the stage is set. We've traveled down the road and know how we got to where we're at. Now it's time to see where we're going. Because now, starting tomorrow on Thursday, when this episode gets aired, we will have game 1 of the NBA Finals of the Boston Celtics versus the Golden State Warriors. Golden State has the home court advantage, even though Boston had a better standing, a better seed in the standing. They were in the Eastern Conference, and even though they were second in the East and Golden State was third in the West, Golden State has a better record, so the better record has prevailed and it now has home court advantage. And I think this is going to be a slobber knock. I've joked with people, said Golden State in 5. I'm going to be realistic. It's going to be Golden State in 5. I'm going to keep my prediction. You thought I was going to change. No, I'm not. Golden State in 5. Miami showed me some things. Miami showed me that there are some holes in that defense of the Boston Celtics. One man was able to go to work on them, and Jimmy Butler. And the thing about that is Boston has proved that they're great when they can contain isolation players, but they're not going against an isolation team. They're going against the Golden State Warriors, in which the ball constantly moves. And Miami tried to run some semblance of a motion offense, keeping the ball hopping around between Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, and Tyler Hero up top. Getting Bam early cuts, trying to get Jimmy early cuts, and you can kind of see some holes in Boston's defense. I think that with the way that the Golden State Warriors play, we're talking about Steph Curry, who's going to be constant motion. He doesn't stop running. One of the guys who has probably the best endurance in the NBA, who's going to be going against a hobbled Marcus Smart. And I don't care what you say, he's still feeling that foot injury from the Milwaukee series. He hasn't been the healthiest in the series against Miami. However, he showed great heart and tenacity by getting out there and playing. But I just think Steph Curry in constant motion, he's not going to give Marcus Smart a chance to breathe. You're going to have to chase this guy around, which also could affect Marcus Smart on the offensive end of the ball. Not to mention, if Klay is back at form, you now have two shooters you have to worry about on that court at all times. Draymond is going to do his thing as the point forward. I believe Kevon Looney is going to continue his momentum and his great run, getting these offensive rebounds, getting second play chances to the Golden State Warriors. I just think the Golden State Warriors has too much experience. They got the cavalry coming back. Otto Porter's coming back. Gary Payton is coming back. I don't know if Iguodala is coming back, but I'm assuming he might see a little tick as long as his neck is up for it in this series. I mean, we're talking about defensive guys. We're talking about great glue guys. We're talking about guys who can make a heavy impact on this team, especially a guy like Gary Payton Jr., who can help lead the charge on the defensive end against Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I mean, and even sticking Marcus Smart, in which you can give Steph Curry some breathers. So I just believe that, Boston is more physical, and yes, they are bigger than the Golden State Warriors with Al Horford and Robert Williams, but Robert Williams hasn't been healthy this entire series, and Kevon Looney has shown he can play defense when it counts. So I believe this game one is going to be pivotal. It's going to set the tone. It's going to, I don't want to say it's going to decide the matchup, but it's definitely going to set the tone. It's going to play out, to show what we could possibly see during this series. And I expect the Golden State's offense, the Golden State Warriors offense, to stand up against that Boston Celtics defense. So that's just my breakdown of it. Some people might not agree with me. Some people might say that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown might, step up big against this Warriors defense. But people tend to forget that the Warriors also play great defense as well. Let's not forget, this has been their calling card for the past couple of years, minus the one against Toronto and minus the years that Steph Curry was injured and out. So that's my take on it. I got the Golden State Warriors definitely winning in 6, possibly winning in 5. And as we move on, as we get closer to the show ending, we have to give a huge shout out to the NBA. The NBA right now has 15 black head coaches in their league, which I don't think has ever been done, where half the league has a black head coach, and there's only 3 black head coaches in the NFL. So shout out to them, and I'll bring up that statistic because the Los Angeles Lakers have now hired a new head coach, and their new head coach is Coach Darvin Ham. Now, Darvin Ham served as an assistant head coach to the Lakers in previous years, and most recently an assistant head coach to the Milwaukee Bucks, and even played a pivotal role in the Milwaukee Bucks winning the championship last year. So, Darvin Ham now, who has been rumored, or I don't know, I won't even say rumored because there's reports out on it that he was actually LeBron James' first pick as head coach, They're saying that the Los Angeles Lakers are going to give him full power as head coach, or at least he will have more power than Frank Vogel did. So he's going to be picking his coaching staff. I'm pretty sure she's going to get some mouths and ears away from him. People like Kurt Rambis, people like Magic Johnson, people like Phil Jackson. I believe she's going to let Rob Pelinka do his job. She's going to let Coach Darvin Ham do his job. And they're going to be looking to try to turn around the luck for the Los Angeles Lakers, because what the Lakers did was they squandered a perfect opportunity to take advantage of a season in which LeBron had amazing numbers in year 17. Is unheard. Year 19, I apologize, is unheard of. This was year 19 for LeBron James, and the man was averaging almost or at 30 and 7 and 8, something like that. I mean, LeBron James had an amazing year. Actually, to me, he should have at least been on NBA All-Second Team, even though he made NBA All-Third Team. But LeBron had a great year, but, the Lakers were with injury with Anthony Davis. They didn't recover well after letting go of their glue role players, guys who brought defensive intensity, guys like KCP, guys like Wesley Matthews, straight wing guys that brought that their defensive prowess to this team. Losing to Alex Caruso, they wasn't able to recover. And we know that the year that Russell Westbrook has. But it looks like the Lakers are going to try to run it back. I don't think there's any way they can get rid of Russell Westbrook's contract. People have been screaming with trade LeBron, which I think is the dumbest thing in the world. If you're trading LeBron, it's only one or two things: either you're very stupid, or you got so much love for LeBron that you're willing to let him go to leave that shit show you call the Los Angeles Lakers. Excuse my language, but that's exactly what it's been. It's been a dookie shoot. So hopefully Coach Darvin Ham can turn the luck around for the Los Angeles Lakers. He does bring championship experience. He's been considered a player's coach. He's a voice for the players with the coaches, and the players listen to his voice for what I've been reading about him. So more power to him, and thank you to the NFL for listening and opening up the doors for more equality within your league, because, when you're looking at a league that's predominantly black, you wonder, well, how there's not any black coaches. So thank you to the NBA for being progressive with the times. Also in news, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have signed former Bears defensive tackle Akeem Hicks. He signed a 1-year deal worth about $10 million, which is $1 million more than the $9 million value that Ndamukong Suh got back in 2021. So now the Buccaneers bring in Akeem Hicks. Now I know Akeem Hicks hasn't really had any spectacular seasons. I know for the past 2 years, he's averaged 3.5 sacks on the year, not even reaching 4. But we know he has a tendency to go nuclear. We look at 2016, 27, and 2018, in which he gave you 7 sacks, then 8.5 in 2017 and 7.5 in 2018. So we know Akeem Hicks has the potential to get the job done. Definitely was a main contributor to that Bears defense. Bear down, ladies and gentlemen. And he's going to serve the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pretty well. Now, Ndamukong Suh is still on that market now as a free agent, and he's probably going to be looking elsewhere, especially with them signing Akeem Hicks. So just definitely something to keep an eye out for. But Akeem Hicks is now Tampa Bay Buccaneers looking to try to help Tom Brady get that coveted 8 Super Bowl ring. Also in news, before we get out of here, we saw a great fight with Gervonta Tank Davis going against Rolando Romero. Tank was putting up his lightweight titles on the line. Romero talking mess. They were supposed to go against each other in December of last year, but Romero ended up getting some sexual assault charges charged to him, in which the fight was then called off. He was later acquitted after they didn't find any evidence against him. So the fight was now back on, and this past Saturday, it was a fight. I'm telling you, these guys came out swinging. Look in the first round. We know usually Tank likes to take the round slow. He likes to try to figure out his opponents. However, to me, he actually kept up the pace in the first round. Rolando caught him with a good shot. Rolly caught him with a good shot, maybe towards the end of that round. But I think to me, Tank did enough to win the first round. And as we look at the second, third, fourth, and fifth round, Rolly started to dictate the action, hitting Tank with some nice power shots, even hurting Tank, I believe, in the second round. He gave him a nice hook, and he was trying to be aggressive. But Tank bided his time. We get to the sixth round. Rolly still trying to be aggressive. Now Tank screamed in his ear in the first round at the end of the first. I thought you were gonna knock me out in the first. So he was definitely trolling Rolly, trying to get in his head. Rolly is an emotional person from what I've seen because he really wanted to knock Tank out. And I think that was his undoing because he got a nice couple hits in Tank in the sixth round, tried to get Tank on them ropes, and it came forward, and Tank sidestepped him beautifully, hit him with a left hook, quick check left hook, and floored Rolando. I mean, let me tell you, sir, Rolly was rolling because he didn't know where he was at. He was out there doing the stinking leg, had the spaghetti legs. Rolly was out for the count. The referee called it out. I mean, the man could not get his legs under him. I don't know if Rolly knew where he was at that time, but Tank Davis, showing why they call him Tank, because he ran through him like a tank, still undefeated. I believe he now have 27 wins with 25 knockouts. I mean, this guy is a tank. What's next, though, for Tank? That's the question. But I do want to bring up the fact that Rolly at the end of the fight said he wanted a rematch. He said he believed he exposed Tank. And, of course, he realized he made a mistake. But he believes that Tank was able to capitalize off that mistake. But he won't make that mistake again. And I respect what Tank said. He said maybe if this fight went to like 9 or 10 rounds before I knocked him out and it was a close fight, maybe. But so you don't give somebody a rematch that just got knocked out like that. And I had to agree. I'm saying, hey, to me, Tank proved this point. He said he's going to knock him out. He knocked him out. So now we wonder what's next for Tank. A lot of people are saying, are you going to fight Ryan Garcia? I believe he will wash Ryan Garcia. Don't get me wrong. King Ryan has proven his prowess in the sport of professional boxing. I just don't think he wants them problems with Tank. And now a lot of other people like myself, people who watch boxing, we're thinking about Devin Haney. And especially with Tank leaving Mayweather Promotions now. This was his last fight under Mayweather Promotions. He will no longer be associated with Mayweather Promotions. Where does that leave Tank? Do you still get the record set? Because they sold out the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. They sold them out. I believe it was like 18,790. I saw Leonard Ellaby say at the post conference. So, are you still going to garnish that same attention even without Mayweather on your back? Are you still going to get the same love you get from the judges? Are you still going to get the same love you get from the referees? These are just things to think about because Tank did do some holding in this fight against Rolly because Rolly was hitting him with some good power shots. But they allowed it to happen. We've seen Mayweather get away with that in the past. Hey, if you're gonna let me be able to stop his momentum by grabbing him and recollecting my thoughts, then so be it. But Tank fought that fight great. I mean, he was losing at least 4 rounds, but he bided his time. He stuck with the game plan, and he waited till Rolly made that crucial mistake, and he put him on his ass for it. So I would love to see him actually go against Devin Haney. We know Haney doesn't fight for Mayweather Promotions, but he is a very close associate with actually he looks at Floyd Mayweather as his mentor. So now with that common ground of them both knowing Floyd Mayweather kind of getting swept under the rug, we wonder now, will we see Tank versus Devin Haney? Devin Haney has a big fight coming up, I believe, June 5th, actually. So, he's going to be trying to unify the lightweight titles. So, if he does win his fight, he should be the next logical choice against Gervonta Tank Davis, who apparently said he ain't ducking nobody. Devin Haney was talking with Stephen A. Smith and said people have been ducking him. And he said he ain't ducking nobody. He ready for all the smoke. So I'm ready to see that happen. And last but not least, we have to show love to our fallen comrade, John Madden. I hope he's continuing to rest peacefully. We found out that he will once again grace the cover of the Madden football game, made famous by his last name. For the 23rd All Madden edition, Madden 23 is gonna be great to see John Madden's face on there. As you know, we lost him on December 28th. We're talking about a football guru. We're talking about a legendary name and legendary figure in the space of professional football, in the National Football League, and he's still missed to this day. And also, EA Sports announced that its $5 million donation will be split, with $2.5 million going to nonprofit organizations like College Track, Girls Who Code, Street Code Academy, and Mission Bit to support 5 years of programming in the science, technology, engineering, art, and math space. But also $2.5 million will help create the EA Madden Scholarship, which will work with the United Negro College Fund to provide scholarships for students at 12 historically black colleges and universities. That is real big of what EA Sports is doing. I love the fact that these big time juggernauts are finally starting to realize that the colleges, the HBCUs need help as well with funding. I myself am mad that I didn't get to experience an HBCU. I got to visit one in Howard University when we took our 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. But I'm just glad that it's starting to feel like America is caring about his black counterparts, and we appreciate John Madden and the whole Madden team for helping out in that endeavor. As I mentioned, I hope that John Madden is continuing to rest in peace. I would never forget his voice, playing over the Madden speakers as we play the football game, or him calling the Thanksgiving game. John Madden will forever be a staple in the National Football League. And that's my show, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys for watching the Rob's 2 Cents Finals Edition. We got to talk some basketball. We got to talk some football. And we got to talk some boxing. Always a good time. As you guys know, I hope you guys hit that notification bell if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and leave a comment. Say hi. Ask a question. I might answer it on my next show. This is episode 73, y'all. I'm almost there, episode 100, man. I remember when I started this journey, and I'm so happy that I'm continuing, man. Make sure you guys, if it's not on YouTube, you can catch me on Spotify, catch me on iTunes, and also catch me on the Rewind Sports 60 Roku channel, also available for Apple and Android TV under the Rewind Sports 60. Shout out to you, brother Jay Rouse. And also, you can catch your boy on ASAP in the morning under the ASAP Sports Network, where I am an analyst on that show, and we talk nothing but real sports. Not to mention, shout out to my boys Frankie, shout out to my boy Logan, shout out to my boy Jay. I appreciate you guys. They allowed me and my boy Pride to be a part of one of my biggest interviews in my young career as a sports analyst. We got to interview the son of the great Roberto Duran. We got to interview Robert Duran Jr., who's right now currently a boxer, making his way up through the ranks, a future world champion. I'm going to hold you to that, Rob, from one Rob to another. You said I would get the interview once you become world champ. You're going to stop by Rob's 2 Cents. I'm going to hold you to that because I know you're going to be the champ. We got to ask some of the hard-hitting questions of the pressure of having his father's name and getting into the same field as his father. And even though he didn't grow up around his father, he still has that pressure of being the son of Roberto Duran. So I had a great interview with Robert Duran Jr., man. I appreciate those guys at ASAP under the show Unscripted, the Unscripted crew. I appreciate you guys for letting me be a part of that. Something I won't forget, and also I did a wrestling podcast with my boy Chris Gonzo in the Gonzo Wrestling Room, which is also available on YouTube. Make sure he has a Facebook page, Gonzo Sports Room, Gonzo's Wrestling Room. Make sure you guys follow him, man. I've been making some real connections in the sports world, man, and hopefully I continue to make connections. Everybody who's helped me along the way, especially my mentor and brother Jerry Rouse. I appreciate you guys, and I'll make sure I put on a great product for you. So you guys, enough with all that sentimental stuff. I know you're ready to leave. Hope you guys have a good one. Enjoy your NBA Finals. Go Dub Nation. Steph Curry makes it look Stepherless. I am guaranteeing that my boy will be Finals MVP. You heard it here first. Rob's 2 cents. Make sure you get your goals. Make sure you set an achievable goal. Make sure you get a plan to crush that goal and then go out and execute. I ain't got nothing but love for y'all. I hope y'all have a great evening. Hope you have a great day. And I hope you continue to be great. And you already know the slogan, baby. We gone. There's a bigger fight going on. There's a much bigger agenda than the streets. And I know sometimes it's hard to see that far in front of us. But we have to look past the illusions. Look past the delusions of grandeur. And look at the bigger picture. We need to become better versions of ourselves each and every day. Fight for what you believe in. Because if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. We just getting started, baby. You guys know the slogan now. Hope you all have a great evening. And we got